Hello team, this is Les Bennett, Learning and Development Manager with the Stewart Restaurant Group. In today's video, I want to talk about the seal kit found within our pump motor assembly. We'll talk about what it is and how to go about replacing it. So let's dive on in. So our pump motor assembly is comprised of three parts. We're going to have a motor, we're going to have a seal kit, which comes in a package like this, and we're going to have a pump, which inserts onto the motor, as we can see up here. So how does this work? When it's time for the system to start pumping, electricity will be sent to the motor, which will turn the shaft. When the shaft turns, the pump, which is inserted on here, the propellers will start to spin. And when that happens, these rollers here actually grab the oil, and they're going to pull the oil from the bottom vat up to the top vat. So what does the seal kit do? Well, the seal kit just ensures that the oil stays within the pump itself. When the seal kit goes out, oil will start to migrate. It will start to come out of the pump, and it can actually get into the motor, and it could ruin our motor. It can cause the motor to go out. And also, when the seal kit goes out, the pump itself could lose its prime, which means you're always having to add oil in order to get it to work. Now, Henny Penny recommends that this seal kit gets replaced every year, usually during the annual inspection. Now, in a perfect world, that's what we would do, but unfortunately, we usually don't replace the seal kit unless we have to replace the motor itself. You can, however, with the motor still in place, you can remove the pump and replace the seal kit if you needed to. Now, ideally, the seal kit would get replaced every year. A motor should last 5 to 6 years. And we really should never have to replace the pump unless it gets rusted out, because the pump can get refurbished every couple years, perhaps replacing the rollers and checking our O-ring. Now when it comes time to install the seal kit, we have instructions here, and I just line all the seals up according to the instructions. And it's nice to maybe lube them up a little bit with some room temperature oil so they go on better. I'm going to start putting these on the shaft. The second piece has a flat side, but also has an indented side. I want to make sure the indented side is facing out. Just putting them on one at a time. Now this piece, I'm just going to put it on the end here. This piece goes on a little bit harder, but at this point now, once I got this piece on, I'd want to compress these all together, as we see here on this motor. Everything's compressed together. And this last piece, we call it the puck, has a shiny side and a not shiny side. We want to make sure the shiny side is facing up. So this would actually go into the pump itself, as we can see in this pump right here. Now at this point, the shaft here is round, but it has a flat side, and I had to make sure this flat part lines up with the pump. But at that point, we'd be able to put this on, and then if everything's lined up correctly, you'd be able to get this on all the way so it's nice and snug. As we see here in this one, the pump is nice and snug with the motor. So once I got this on and it was nice and snug, at that point what I can do then is I can take the screws that come with the pump, and that they would be able to screw in there, and that would hold it in place. So now let's talk about replacing our seal kit and when we often do it. We often do it when the motor goes out. The motor's gone out, so let's say we've taken the motor and the pump out. Let's say this has gone bad, this motor. And what we've done is we got a brand new motor, I got a brand new seal kit, but what happens often is we end up also just getting a brand new pump at the same time. But in reality, we don't really need to get a new pump. We can just refurbish the one we have. So let's say that this motor has gone bad, and I've disconnected the screws, and I've taken the pump off. Now the problem we're going to have with this pump, in order to reuse it, is I need to get this puck out. The puck right here. I need to get it out. But this pump has gotten used for many years, and this is just, it's in there good. Now, it's even gone bad where you might have grease all over in here. But we have to get this puck out in order to reuse this pump so we can put the new one in. And it's very difficult to get from this side. So the best way to take this pump is, if we can remove the screws here, we can pull the cover off, as we've seen over here. And this allows me to get in from the backside with a screwdriver and maybe a hammer, and I can pop out that puck. Also, with the cover off, I can replace the rollers, and I can check if the wheel needs to be replaced and the O-ring. So that's how I can reuse this pump. The problem you're often going to have, though, is you've taken it out. This has been in use for many years. It's probably covered in grease. And it's a 50-50 chance whether or not you can get all these screws out. And you're really struggling with it. You don't even want to deal with it. So often we just get a new pump. But what you can do is, I would encourage you to always have one extra pump laying around, probably a refurbished one. So what I would do, if this motor had gone bad, I got my new seal kit, I would just put on a refurbished pump, assuming that I couldn't get this one apart. Then after that, I would take this one I couldn't get apart, and I would work on it as time permits. I would probably, maybe if I had to put it in the fog tank, as long as I dry it when I'm done so it doesn't rust, I might use some penetrating oil to get into these screws just to work on it. So that way at some point I can get this cover off and I can refurbish this pump. And then the next time I go to replace a motor and I have a seal kit, I'll have another refurbished pump. That way I'm not buying a brand new $400 pump every time I replace the motor in the seal kit.